Where does the central bank come in? We remember from last time that the central bank comes in when the private dealers are done. When the private dealers no longer can, the central bank has to come in at that stage. It could come in earlier to try to influence behavior, but it's easiest to introduce it by saying the private dealers are done. They have done all of this, and prices have moved enough to encourage them to be willing to hold this, but they're not willing to do any more. Even if prices move dramatically, they're not willing to do any more. They have as much risk as they want. So now, we have the surplus country and the deficit country, and we have the central banks of the two countries. So I'm going to put them right under here. So this is the surplus country central bank. And this is the deficit country I'm going to, here, just for the sake of completeness, and so I don't have to introduce anyone else, imagine that everything the deficit country is doing and the surplus country is doing, they're doing with each other or with their private citizens, which is what's up there, okay? And not with some third country or with the IMF or something like that. But once you see the logic of it, you'll see that it could be some third country involved here. There's no particular reason for the surplus countries to help the deficit countries, okay? But for today, it's easier to treat it like that, because otherwise I'd have to add even more balance sheets, and that's not so pretty, okay? So what is it? When the dealers are done, and we still have to make a payment, okay? We still have to make a payment. The private agent in the deficit country still needs to sell FX for dollars, okay? And those dollars need to be transferred to be an asset of the surplus country, okay? And if they can't do that with private dealers, they do it with their central banks. That's the idea. And I'm going to just suggest that it starts with a borrowing of reserves from the deficit country central bank from the surplus country central bank. Okay. So we'll have borrowing reserves, and so that we have a liability of we borrow for a term, and I'm going to write RG here, R star G, okay, because G is for government, okay, that this might not be the market rate of interest, okay. This is an agreement between central banks, and they're borrowing from the surplus central bank. And the other side, so this is just a swap of IOUs, just like all banking is, okay, is a $10 spot. Oh, well, that's not right. That's not right. Sorry. It's, well, you can do it that way. In fact, I will do it that way. Yes, there's a reason I did that. It's $10 spot dollar, $10 spot dollar. Instead of subtracting reserves, I'm having them taking some risk here. They're opening a deposit account for the deficit country, and the deficit country has this $10 spot, okay, which they can now sell. They now have dollars here, and they can sell that to their domestic residents. So plus 10S. And I'm going to say call that SG FX. So that's where instead of minus 10s here, it's minus 10sg. Okay, so the domestic resident that needs dollars, instead of buying them from a private dealer, is buying them from the central bank. And again, the interest rate, I mean the exchange rate that is used, because the central bank isn't necessarily a market rate. The central bank can say, we like you, okay? You are an important industry, or you are a connected fellow, or whatever reason, okay? It's not necessarily a market rate of exchange here. And then once the deficit country has these dollars, they can pay them, and they so that's going to be minus the 10. There was a $10 spot to the credit of the deficit country central bank, okay, and so there's a transfer of that to the domestic resident. Okay, which is there. Okay, so it's just a payment here. The consequence for the surplus central bank, if you see that, is that there's an expansion of their balance sheet and an expansion, therefore, of money supply domestically, okay, which they may not like. Okay, but this is a surplus central bank, and they could reverse that. Okay, so they could reverse that just by having by sterilizing it, minus $10 treasury bill of some kind, minus $10 spot, selling a treasury bill to sterilize that. So this is the sterilization step. It's not really necessary for our story here, so I'll draw a line under here. It's not necessary for the payment, but I wanted to show this because it shows why the surplus central bank, what the surplus central bank is actually doing. If you look at the right-hand side, all of these things cancel. You know, plus, minus, they all cancel here. What the surplus central bank has actually done, okay, is to sell an asset and use the proceeds and then lend the proceeds to another central bank, okay? And it's sold an asset, in this case I'm showing, it's sold some government debt. Okay, so it may be that the government of the surplus country is not so happy about this. It's like you used to be holding treasury bills, and now you've lent this money to foreigners. I'm a little worried about that. That might ring a bell to you, okay, about the financial crisis that we're talking about. So maybe you won't be able to do this, but this would be the sterilized thing. Here, this story is the equivalent sterilization activity here would involve expansionary plus 10. Let me just get this the way it is right in the notes. Plus 10 times this spot rate FX term. So that might be a treasury bill, a term deposit. It might be a here, and plus 10 SG FX spot here. And the reason so this is the sterilization equivalent for the deficit country. And again, you see a bunch of stuff canceling here. What do we see here? That spot here. So I think this cancels, this cancels, this cancels, this cancels. So the parts that are left are here and here. What is this central bank doing? It's borrowing term dollars and it's lending term FX. Does that look familiar to you? Okay. Yeah. It's being a speculative dealer. That's what it's doing. It's taking a naked forward position in its own currency here, okay? And it's doing so without a profit motive, okay? These rates here, this RG, okay, and this SG are not necessarily rates that are gonna give you an expected profit on this. If there was expected profit on this, the private dealers would be doing it, and there'd be no need for the central bank to do this. Okay, so this is a sense. This whole example is rigged to try to, or I won't say rigged, designed. Okay, is designed to show the sense in which central bank is acting as a backstop for the foreign exchange market. Okay, it's acting as a backstop for the foreign exchange market as a consequence of its commitment to peg overnight interest rates. Okay, pegging overnight interest rates leads it to winding up being in this position where it's the foreign exchange dealer of last resort here. And I'm showing you that foreign exchange dealer last resort behavior. Now, knowing that it's going to be the dealer of last resort, it may well intervene earlier, right? Because if you look at this, you can say, well, the matched book dealers, okay, what they need to do their business is somebody who's willing to take this naked exposure here. And if it may well be, you know, that these private dealers here are just charging a ton of money in order to take this naked exposure. The central and notice what they're doing. They're pushing the forward rate away from its efficient level. Okay? So the central bank may say, I'm going to intervene before that. These private dealers are just asking an arm and a leg to make this market. I'll make this market. I'll make this market. Okay? And I will provide the forward hedge for the matched book dealer. I'll do that myself. The central banks that do that are typically central banks in poorer countries or countries where there aren't very well developed foreign exchange dealer markets, okay? And so the premiums could be very large, okay? And so the central banks say, I know I'm a minor currency, okay, but my people are just as important as your people, and I'm going to, and you're charging an arm and a leg, and you're pushing prices away from their efficient level anyway. So here I've just given you an argument for why exchange intervention might sometimes be efficiency improving. Okay, it's efficiency improving precisely because the private dealer system needs profit. It needs profit in order to, and that means that prices get pushed away from their efficient levels. If you're a government, if you're a central bank or a treasurer, you care about this. These prices are signals, you know, right? Economics tells you that. These prices are signals. They're telling your companies, are you competitive? Are you not competitive? All of that, you know, these are signals. And similarly, interest rates, you know, pushing term rates around. You know, these are signals about is saving scarce, is saving not scarce. But these signals are sending the wrong signal. You know, it's not savings that's scarce here, okay? It's liquidity that's scarce. It's liquidity that's scarce. And the central bank can make it less scarce. Okay, by acting as a dealer itself, by saying, I can lose money, I don't care if I lose money, for a national purpose, like helping industrialize my country. Or I can just make sure that I don't, that my profit is zero. Okay, as opposed to a private dealer who's going to insist on the profit being positive. Okay, you could not even say I'm going to lose money. I'm just going to make sure that I don't make money. Okay, I don't need to make positive profits here. My view is that these people who are doing the trading of goods, okay, are my people, and I need to help them do their foreign trade, and it's actually going to be beneficial for the country, even if I don't make any money doing this. So this is an argument from the money view for why sometimes it might be okay to have foreign currency intervention. But be careful. It is not a general blanket approval. Right? If you go into the business of offering foreign exchange hedges to the world as a central bank, and you say, I am going to sell you, I'm going to go into the business of doing these naked speculative positions, and I'm going to let you hedge anything, and you offer that to the world, okay, you're going to cause a bubble, you're going to cause all kinds of problems, okay? So it's not a blanket endorsement of currency manipulation at all. Okay, I'm just showing that one consequence of realizing that the way the private market works is by distorting prices. Sometimes these distortions can be very large. If they're very large, then I think you do have a prima facie case for the central bank intervening. But if they're very small, why bother with that? Okay, because you're messing with markets that you want to be deep and liquid, and if you don't let them make money, they're not going to do these things. Okay, you want these markets to be out there operating, so that you don't have to be making political decisions about who gets foreign exchange and who doesn't. Okay, which is what you're going to have to do. You can't be offering this trade to everybody. Okay, or you're just offering Goldman Sachs their next bonuses. Okay, that's not what you want to be doing. The reason you're intervening is to facilitate the underlying trade. Okay, that's happening, and not to let the scarcity of foreign exchange get in the way.